to everyone on board. It's good to be here again. So I start with this question that's always perplexed me, Duane. Um, how Paul teacher left this world? So you say he was taken out, or he decided to leave voluntarily. So somewhere you say he was taken out by those who disliked his great presentation here. And then elsewhere you say he decided to leave. So I want to think that if he decided to leave, and even if he didn't decide to leave, and people attempted to take him out, they will not succeed. So which is which?
Which is which? Okay, so the old question is which is which? Okay, so, uh, well, here, life is funny. Okay, it's always funny. So there were people that didn't want him around. Okay, that's a given. It's always like that here, with any of us, really, and more so with people like Paul, etc. And at the same time, Paul had said a few things like, I've reached all that I can reach. So it's kind of like um, your hissing goes off and on, but I can still hear you. It's kind of like, when it's like when we go to school, when we're done with a particular grade. Yeah, that's better. Thank you. When we're done with a particular grade, first, second, third, fifth, 10th, whatever, and on, it's time to go. And so now as time has went along, time and events have went along, and as for me, as I look back, okay, the real guides, they see that it can only go so long, and that's it. They can only present it a particular way for so long. And I see that with the new presentation, but the new presentation, you might say, will evolve. Okay, it's not going to stay the same. And as you see those that came in and took it over, it became more restrictive. See? So, Paul hinted at the isness, but it wasn't time yet for that. It wasn't time for the isness. And so, not only was there, needed to be, you might say, a rest period. It's kind of like, Paul had run the marathon with people, and people were exhausted. This is how it is as we go through this endlessness with life. These are the rest points that Rebazar talked about in one of the books, either Dialogues or the other one. The Far Country. And so this is the idea. In other words, life is big, and each lifetime is a huge challenge. And so Paul took it basically, Paul presented a lot. It was a lot what he presented. And this is where it overwhelms a lot of people. But to bring it into what I'm presenting here then at that time, no, it would have been too overwhelming, you see. So it's almost like a person going to college just wanting to get their bachelor's degree the first 2 years, and the teachers are suggesting no, you must keep going, you must get your master's, your PhD, and blah blah blah. That's a lot, and then go out there and become a doctor, and then go through medical school, and that's a lot. Certain people could do it, a very few, but that was the sign of the times. As I look back there. At these experiences, I see that Paul had brought a lot, and that was enough. That was enough. People needed to, consider and reconsider and etc. We could say think about what they've been through and all these things. Evaluate. Yeah. So these are big steps. The boys prepare a lot of this, the is itself, and the real guys prepare a lot for this to come in because it's a lot to take in. And just like there's just so many of us here, very few compared to the world, this is a lot for this world. But we're at the point now because of then, Paul made certain predictions, okay, and he talked about the future a little bit, and it's always choice how the future is going to be. It's always choice, and the choices have come to be what we're experiencing today, with everything that's very lethal, and the kids have, we're referring to the 5G network and things like this, plus everything else that's going on. And most people are not aware of this, but it's going to come face up to them because this is how it is. These are the choices that have been made. So it is time for this, isn't it? It's kind of like do or die. That's all there is to it. Otherwise, you're going to go unconscious and be lost and go into future lifetimes. It's really hang on and have a focus for this, adamantly, you might say, because again, of how the world is. And so it's kind of both ways, Charles, and Paul getting himself out of the way. You see, because what happens too is that it becomes the personality thing, you see. Now, for myself, I try and stay away from that as much as I can. I don't want that because it doesn't work. That's the whole idea. It doesn't work. Some people want to be the stars. Fine, go be the star, go be the whatever. But it doesn't work because it's the isness that is real. It is the is that is real. And that's everything. So, yes, it's both, Charles. People wanted him out of the way, of course. And, many were glad to see it, especially those that took over. That was it. They were just waiting and their opportunity, and things, helped that along, of course. Of course, there were those that were helping that along. And it's many things. And so people, if they're interested, they can see it on the real side. But it's whatever. If there's something there to be learned or, useful. But, from the physical side, things are what they are. And that's just, he did what he did. And so really, it becomes almost too much because Paul did a lot. And actually what I do is really too much. It really is, but it'll keep going because, again, getting people's attention, that's what we're doing. We're creating attention getters here. And so this is a do or die situation because people are being destroyed and ruined. I mean, the microwaves, just see that little tape, that little video that Kelsey put out, that and other ones. People take microwaves for granted. These things are lethal, mind control, lethal things, and we're bathing in them. It's ridiculous. So there is a bigger view here that's going to take place, and the boys are preparing it. And so, but it's a lot. It's a lot of agreement, too, and because of how the world is, very complex. But we've passed that era, and there is an understanding for some people there if they see it, but for the most part, most people will glaze over it and go, oh, no, well, it said, the doctor said he died of natural causes. Well, the doctors say that about everybody, don't they? Yeah, they don't tell them that they're fried with their brain is fried from microwaves and tumors. They just say, oh, it's natural causes. Well, this has become natural causes, etc. So we have the ideas on this side. If there's a benefit there, yes, but there isn't a way, and that is that a comparison. But very few people will do that. Very few people will take the time to compare the differences. They would rather just glaze over it and say, well, this is a spiritual path, this is what this means, and blah, 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 and use the old definitions, which mean what? Where did those plug into? Where did those? They don't. People are trying to find, they're trying to plug their cable TV into outer space somewhere. Well, whatever. So this is really how it is, realistically. and it is an actuality of recognition. Right now, this is the isness, this is the new nowness, the is. I recognize this to bring this out and to hint at it, but the aliveness, that the all aliveness that life is, this is the isness, that is to be recognized. And so comparatively to when Paul was here and he left, there is a real difference, you see. And so, but that event that took place then, well, that's kind of a mystery, and that's the fun part of it also. And who will take the time to discover it? And those that do, well, they will be shown certain things. And everybody will be shown something different. You know, you might say a piece of the puzzle that in some way might ignite a recognition within them to discover what is real now. Yeah. So, yeah, it's always, it's the never-ending story. It's never to be resolved, okay, you might say, because it can't be, and that's the best part. But to recognize it now for what it really is. And so, yeah, from then to now, yeah, there's a difference, but it's in the comparison, not so much in what happened, Charles, but comparing then to now, and have fun figuring that out. Yes, thank you for asking.
In the cooperation, they talk about inner experience, and we talk of real side experiences. Can we say a real side experience is superior to an inner experience?
Well, I wouldn't use the word superior, okay, because then it sounds like we're proclaiming we're superior, okay. You can say that, but in the literal sense, people will look at it like discrimination. So it's actually what it is. So we have inner experiences, all right, and we have real side experiences, and we have many experiences. And so the individual will, you know, it's kind of like high school and college. Okay, they're very similar, aren't they? And so these definitions do have their place, and they do, you know, connect to certain things like the God idea. So my idea of this was to, you might say, kind of upbeat it, because the inner experiences, for the most part, were taken for granted. You know, just like all the ideas, God, soul, spiritual, all these things taken for granted, and then utilized in a particular way of control is what it is. So I would say that the inner experiences are mainly off the astral realm, when people refer to that. Mainly astral in their connotation. Not all, everybody's going to have their own, but Rivzar likes the real side. You know, again, that reference, the real side, okay, that, you know, provides a, you might say, a bigger view, all right, for people. In other words, because there really is no inner, all right, and the real side is a recognition. That becomes the difference. And so just like the old idea of astral projection, soul traveling, whatever, it's moving from point to point, which we do, we have that experience. But at the same time, even though people are having those experiences, are they recognizing the isness, you see, that always is? So there, that becomes a difference. And if they don't, so they continue to stay in creation from point to point, or inner experiences, you see. Because here we have, you always have the opposite. You have inner and outer. That becomes the difference. So the hint, the reference of the real side is the endlessness of the isness. That becomes the difference. So yeah, people can say, well, I had an inner experience with Paul or Rivzar or Yalda. Okay, that's fine. But did you recognize, what they're presenting to you realistically, okay? That becomes the difference. So it's more than just the experience. Yes, we all have experiences from something. I was with the boys last night going through a lot of stuff myself, a lot of funny stuff, and there's more to it than that. There's more to it. It's like, oh, I had this experience. It's like a young child, at 2 or 3 years old. They know who their parents are, okay, but they don't recognize what's going on with what their parents are doing and how to survive this life. They do have the experience with their parents though, and they do have their expectations when they're going to be fed or when they're going to be asleep or whatever. You see, they have those experiences too, but do they recognize what's taking place so they themselves can live and be like their parents do? Well, they don't. So they're at the mercy, they're at the effect of creation, aren't they? And without the parents, what are they going to do? They're going to sit and cry, aren't they? And so how would it be, we'll use this as an example, if, let's say, well, Harry's not really there, but let's just say he was there, but then he walked away from everybody, and what would everybody do? It's like, oh, gee, what do we do now? Harry's gone. You see, because they don't recognize the isness. So yes, there is a difference, and thank you for bringing it up. There is a difference between inner experiences, okay, so that's like using the old reference of God, okay, you see, and the is. There is a real difference. And many people they're trying to blend it together. There is no blending. That's like oil and water. There's no blending. They continually separate from each other. The isness does not agree to what people decide that it is, okay? Or these ideas that they've created. It does not agree to that, because it's real, and these things are just simply ideas that refer to whatever, okay? Do they refer to a benefit? Realistically, no, they don't. They look like it. They look like they refer to a benefit. It looks like the food at Walmart or whatever is good, but is it? Or is it cloned, manufactured, whatever? We all eat it, etc. But it does look good in those packages. So, yes, seeing that you've brought this up, it activates me to better define it. There's a difference. I don't use. I may have a few times as a kind of point to point to get people to the real side. I still may use the inner idea as a start, and again the so-called dream visions and whatever. That's just a first start. That's just the first step to this reality, to recognizing this reality. So yes, for now there is a real difference, Charles, because again it's the old language. It's the old references, and it's the new references, the ones that I create, are definitely for the isness. They refer to the isness. The other ones refer to when things took place back when, you see. So these are floating ideas, you might say, in time and space, like satellites. But you decide. Everybody, there is something for everybody, and everybody can have whatever they want. So this is the focus. Just like a pilot has a direction, he goes in a direction, and he decides his direction. He ain't just flying all over the place. He has a defined direction, and this is how it is to recognize this. So I would say there is a difference. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, that's obviously tries to answer the next question, though I don't know whether it will be completely answered. Now, when I joined the corporation, I saw Harold in the skies, see, very broad and big like that in the what I want to term now an inner experience. It was very big and shiny there in the skies. Now, in the blue sky island, there's an instance where Portugal is seen in the skies on the real side, and this serves to confirm that he is the true reality from the east. So how would you qualify Harold's appearance in the broad skies in the inner worlds? Was he a real guide too and got demoted?
Well, okay. You might say everybody's given the chance, all right, to do what they do. Everybody is given that chance. Harold was given the chance. So was Darwin. Okay, they were basically the caretakers. And Book 9 explains this a little bit better. It becomes more defined. But the experiences that people have at that time, this is what it was. In other words, if it is Harold, or if it's the boys doing it, or if it's an apparition, I don't know. Okay, because it's your experience. So you decide what it is, and accordingly, I get it. What can you say? So there's things happening all the time, and there's confirmations from anything that's created or whatever. All real side experiences are created in some particular way. So I'm not going to downplay any of these things. Everybody's having their experiences. From the experience, you make a choice. Okay, so you had those experiences then, and you're right now with all of us, right here and now. So, you decide what it is from that time. It's kind of like when I lived with my mother. Yes, she was there. She was actually there. Now she's not. She's off on her own journey somewhere else. So she's not in the present sense, you might say. That's one way to say it. But you decide. But again, at the same time, there are people that, they bring those past experiences into the present and try to continually make them a reality with this nowness life is. And it's a decision. You can do it, but is that what life is right now? Is that the true recognition of what's taking place now? Again, this is just, life is as it is, like the sun shining. You can sit there and ask the sun a question all day long. Is it going to answer? Well, you have to recognize that answer. And many people want to hear an answer, but in the literal sense. But again, you had that experience, Charles. And in the present time, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, whatever, I had experiences on the real side with Harold too at that time. And Darwin. Yes, I had experiences there too, you see. You might say those were the innocent days in the beginning. But look at how it is, come to be. And so it's, you plant flowers, but all of a sudden you get thorn bushes. Why is that? Yeah, this is how life is. It's, especially here in the physical, it's brutal. And we decide to figure it out or not. And again, most people don't. They go with the comfort part, looking for comfort, etc. And it's not that you're not supposed to have that at certain times, but you decide your adventure. I usually decide things that are just hard on myself for the most part, because I see it and I see that what else is possible. So I don't pretend it's not there. I go for it, and it's hard on me. It's very difficult. And so, but that's okay, because I know I'll get through it. Because if you don't do it, then you might say you don't get through it. So you decide from then till now what that experience means to you. So would you say that, okay, you had that experience then, and let's bring it into the present? Would you compare to what is taking place right now? What value does that experience have? You answer that, you see? You decide. Does it have any value?
Yeah, Duane, I think you've really put it in context, because that is what I thought too. because as you said, that was in the beginning, and those were in the early days, and you can call early days of really relative innocence, when things were still fine. Yes, because I thought so too, and but I wanted to really get the clarification, and you put it clearly from then to now. Can we still say he is what he was then? No, certainly no. Yeah, I actually saw him bright in the skies like that. I shouted. It had light sparkling around, just dressed as he was, dressed like in a suit, and with a soft smile in the skies like that. There were many people seeing and shouting, "My hunter, my hunter." Yeah, but that was then. And you put it in the now context, it's not the same thing. I think the answer is very clear to me now.
It's kind of like, Charles, it's kind of like when two people first get married and they're celebrating, they're doing the ceremony, whatever, wherever it is. And, the woman's dressed up and the man is dressed up in a suit, and it's just like it's like an immortal day, you might say. And everybody's jubilant, right? Well, as time goes on, and it can only take a one night or a few weeks, or maybe it takes years. But as the experience with this where it first started keeps going, where does it end up? You see, that becomes the difference, doesn't it? So yes, each one of us is given that chance. Okay, each one of us is given that opportunity to do something. But again, it's the end result, isn't it? It's where it really ends up. So you see it today. You see the real side of it. You see everything that has plagued it. But again, even if the two people getting married were part of two different gangs, or one was with the mafia and the other's with the communists or whatever, that celebration day is celebration, isn't it? It's a big deal. Everybody's looking at the celebration, aren't they? That's what they're looking at. But did they see behind the scenes what's going on? You see, behind the experience, did they see that? I saw it. I saw the thing with the Darwin thing too. But okay, I was to be there because it was good lessons for me, plus other things, because it wasn't time yet. And, there are certain things that were supposed to take place, but they didn't because it was free choice. Okay, just like today, things are, you might say, behind schedule with what's going on, but it takes a lot of agreement with what is to be more so brought out here. But do you see what I mean? That was like the wedding day. Everybody was celebrating, you see? And so, again, there was a lot of agreement there. And a lot of people wanted that, too. You get a group of people together, I'm not saying it's so, and just like they can change the weather, which they did. There was a time at Darwin's time where, what's his name, who wrote A Bridge to Acton Car? I forget his name. I know it. But anyhow, he got some of the higher initiates together, and they started changing the weather. And so this can be so. So again, really, what was it? But that's that celebration moment where people, things were announced, and there was agreement there, and there was a creation there, wasn't there, of some kind? There was some kind of agreement there, but as time went on, that kind of, just like a cloud, it just kind of dissipated, didn't it? Because there was no real intent there or recognition by Harry, all right, and a lot of others. It was a nice thought form, but again, it's your experience. You decide. Compare it to now, and what is the value. So yes, thank you, Charles.